Eat like a king who's on a budget. 3 tasty options, fries, drink, and nuggets. All for $5. Wait, that can't be right. Just confirm that that's the real price. BK, have it your way.
Look, we all know dining out has gotten expensive lately. It feels like you can't leave a drive-thru for under $20 anymore. My wife and I were just talking about this, and those were the exact words that came out of her mouth. But you know what I told her? I said, the king is looking out for the fans this February. Right now, you can grab the $4.99 double cheeseburger meal. That is 2 flame-grilled patties, melty cheese, a side of hot fries, and a cold drinks, all for $5, baby. In a world where a Super Bowl ticket costs more than a mortgage payment, it's nice to know you can still get a massive win for under $5. It's available all month long in restaurants, or, hear me out, get the Burger King app. It's there as well. Grab the deal, keep the change, enjoy the game. I should be a rapper. Burger King, you rule. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Slapdog here, and today we are going to be talking about 10 head coaching vacancies. 0 black head coaches were hired, a $300 million salary cap that just broke the bank for every GM in the league, and the greatest coach of all time, Mr. Bill Belichick, gets told, hold on, pump the brakes, not yet, by the Hall of Fame. The NFL's moving fast, and honestly, some of it is just getting a little weird. We're 6 days away from the Super Bowl. But before we talk about Drake Maye and the Seahawks, we have got to talk about the league's newest hire, a chief kindness officer. And yeah, I'm telling you, we have got some thoughts. And I say we because I can't keep all this to myself. Joining me today in all the midst of this chaos to keep me from losing my mind over this kindness officer news, my producer, the man behind the scenes, Scotty Del Rey. The floor is yours, my friend. Please tell me I'm not the only one who thinks the league has just lost the plot this week.
For the kindness officer? Yeah, I don't know what that is. Who's it for, is my question. Like, if I was sitting down with Roger Goodell, say, listen, man, this whole chief kindness officer thing, who's that for exactly? Because I don't know about you. When I think of a football fan, I think of like a grown man who watches some football, maybe a Midwestern guy, just, hardworking, blue collar, wants to watch some football on the weekends. I just can't imagine that individual gives one flying fuck about a chief kindness officer. And it feels like, I don't know, it feels like the NFL has decided to try, it's like they're pushing all the games international now to try and broaden their horizons a little bit. It feels like they're doing that here.
Which we will talk about today.
Yeah, we will talk about that. But it feels like they're doing that here too, but instead of broadening their horizons, they're just like hawking a loogie in the face of the people who actually watch their product on a regular basis. And they're like, listen, football fans, I know you like football, but maybe take a break from that for a second and listen to our chief kindness officer tell you about how to be kind. Maybe instead of being a football fan, we're going to treat you like you're a kindergartner who watches Miss Rachel on YouTube, because now we're going to talk about kindness and how to respect one another.
Did you learn about Miss Rachel because you're now a father? Is that
no, I knew about Miss Rachel, and she seems like, I don't want to overstep my bounds or maybe say something that's not totally accurate, but Miss Rachel seems like she might have been sent from the bowels of fucking hell to annoy me. So she will not be on in my house ever.
Tyson belongs to Adrian, says, what is this? This is the greatest show of all time, Leatherbrains, where we talk all things NFL. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you joining us. As far as the chief officer is concerned, it is a newly invented specialized role focused on fostering empathy, positivity, and respectful behavior within an organization or community, frequently as an often honorific title. In 2026, the NFL appointed YouTube creator Darman as its first ever CKO to promote sportsmanship, positive, uplifting, often content during the Super Bowl. So it really...
I heard that they're doing like a hashtag campaign or something, like it's 2014, and they're doing a hashtag campaign where you say nice things about your division rivals.
Oh my God.
Like, do they realize how fucking stupid? Like, I don't want to offend anybody, but back in middle school, we used to describe things as gay. This is like the gayest thing I've ever heard of in my life. This is like as gay as it gets. Like, what are we doing here?
You did offend some people there, I promise.
I did. Well, I'm sorry to those people, but what I said is true though, so it is what it is. the NFL is doing everything that they can to piss off their like most loyal customers, and in favor of I don't know who this is for. Like this is for like a I don't know, furry bisexual woman, like maybe might be interested in this sort of thing. I don't have any idea like what the base is for the chief kindness officer. Like I don't know, a Brown graduate maybe, or like a Berkeley graduate might be interested in this. But like regular people around America watching football, we don't care about this. I don't understand what they're doing.
This to me seems like, and I don't know this Don Marr, whoever this new chief kindness officer is, but he's
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's a YouTube guy, I think.
Well,
I
and
also
that was
think
what
he
I
was
was going to say.
convicted of fraud at one point in his life. I saw some article that said he was he was on probation for like 5 years because he defrauded the city of Oakland.
Is this what we
sure that's
really
real.
want? Spreading kindness to everyone else and teaching all the youths all the bad things?
Kindness is overrated, honestly. You know, there's actually a lot of things in life that you should not react in a kind way to. Like I think we promote kindness as like this universal virtue. But there's plenty of things that if they happen around you or to someone you love, you should not at all react with kindness to that thing. So like, why are we talking about kindness like it's always good? It's not always good.
Well, and I'm kind of glad that you bring this up because this is the sport of football. It's not like you're going out there and you're hugging each other and whoever gives the best hug wins the game.
That'd be a fun sport. But it wouldn't be football.
It would not be football. And that's so there's just like players aren't kind to each other. I mean, you're kind to your teammates, I would presume. We were kind to our teammates when we played the sport. And so like you have that, but like you have a head coach currently as a head coach in the NFL who legitimately put out a hit on an NFL player at one point in time. And it's like maybe start there. Like if you really want to crack down on kindness, maybe get rid of some shitty people who are actually putting out hits on NFL players. So to me, it seems very much like a media grab, and this Darman person probably is a very famous YouTuber. So for them, it was probably like, let's get the publicity. Let's try and get some of his followers.
That's my point, though, is like, what's the publicity? Like, is there a group of people in America that is so interested in this that it's going to impact in a positive way the viewership of the NFL? Because I would argue, no. It's like they're doing this. They're like virtue signaling, but there's nobody on the other end. They're like doing it just to do it. Like no.
Well, he has
nobody finds this compelling.
26.7 million subscribers on YouTube. So for them, they're trying to hit. This looks like an entire marketing ploy to try and obtain viewers from a content creator. From Darman.
Darman is single-handedly changing the landscape of football. Is what you're saying?
They're just trying to, dude. We're going to talk about this. Like the NFL is trying to go global. Like they're trying to go Mr. Worldwide. They're trying to be Pitbull here, man. So I think this is part of it. Is like they're trying to reach new avenues and reach new fans. And I mean, we saw it last year with Taylor Swift, and it was like how many Swifties started watching football because Taylor Swift is now at the game. Similar thing, right? Where you're just trying to grab these different influencers to then
I'm
reach
fine
new.
with that.
New
Why do you
fan
have to
bases.
name him Chief Kindness Officer?
What else are you? Well, like his whole
Just
YouTube
bring him on
shtick,
and have him talk to people. What do we do?
His whole YouTube shtick is like uplifting and positive stories and kindness, and so like that's his whole. That's his realm.
Okay, well,
is what I found out.
I don't know. The whole thing just reeks to me of Miss Rachel bullshit, and I'm not a kindergartner, so it does not appeal to me. And in fact, it just makes me think that the NFL is like, we're going to do everything that we can to provide a product that has nothing to do with football. And they're like, if you like football too fucking bad, we're going to be talking about anything but football for as much as possible, as much time as possible.
We love kindness.
Weird. It's weird.
We're going to put 52 grown men on a field and have them brutally beat the shit out of each other, but we love kindness.
It's like if Burger King went on with one of their commercials, and instead of talking about their delicious cheeseburgers, they raved about how wonderful the tile is in the bathroom of the restaurant. Like, what are we talking about? This has nothing to do with the product. What are we doing? Like, we're just making shit up for no reason. Who does this appeal to?
Well, maybe more people would go to Burger King to use their facilities if their bathroom tile was nice.
I don't think that I'm not a marketing expert. I didn't go to Berkeley, but I imagine that probably has very little to do with the customer base at Burger King. I think they're more. No offense to the customer base of Burger King, but I think they're more concerned about the structural integrity of the tiles. Make sure they're not collapsing as people thunder into the restaurant.
Well, they are a sponsor, and we love Burger King, so thank you for sponsoring us.
Yeah.
We're not gonna bash on the clientele such as ourselves who frequent Burger King. What we are gonna do though, Scotty, is we're gonna pivot over to the coaching carousel because we finally have all of the head coaching vacancies are now plugged. So we're gonna
plugged. I like that.
They've been plugged. We're gonna start with Arizona Cardinals. They hired.
Listen,
I don't know.
Put the broadcaster thing aside.
Okay.
Real talk. It's you.
Real talk.
It's your team.
It's me. It's my team.
Who'd they hire, and what do you think about it from the bottom of your heart?
They hired Mike LaFleur,
Okay.
former offensive coordinator for the Rams. As I'm taking my broadcasting hat off here and talking honestly, there's no downside for me. No matter who, like, we're not going to attract somebody like a John Harbaugh or you know, a Kevin Stefanski. Like, we're not going to what many would probably call an A-list coach. We're not getting that. Our owner's cheap. Our organization is in shambles. It's a poorly run organization. So we're not gonna attract any like high candidates for the coaching vacancy. With that being said, I like the hire of Mike LaFleur. We wanted Clint Kubiak. I think that was pretty much done and done because Mike LaFleur had done 2 interviews with them and left without a contract in hand. And then they interviewed Clint Kubiak. Kubiak was like, I'm going to go to the Raiders, which we'll talk about next. And so then it was like, well, we got Mike. So it was like not the choice that the Cardinals wanted. They wanted Kubiak, and I would have preferred Kubiak just because of his offensive prowess. However, I'm fine with LaFleur. And the reason being is I would almost rather hire like a Mike LaFleur versus, I don't want to say like a Kevin Stefanski or any of those guys because obviously those are great coaches. But like take a shot on the unproven young guy who hasn't been a head coach before because we have nothing to lose. Like we don't. And so he's an offensive-minded guy, which excites me because our offenses look like trash. He comes from a McVay tree, and I believe he was with Shanahan at one point as well. So, like, he hopefully will carry some of the McVay offensive prowess to our organization because McVay is very good offensively. Like, he knows what he's doing. It's a high-volume throwing team. They run a lot of zone run, and so hopefully Mike can do that. But I'd rather take a shot on an unproven guy. The likelihood that it works is probably low, but I don't even know if you could blame Mike LaFleur for that because the organization is just so poorly ran. So in the event that it doesn't work out, it's like I'd rather take a 3-year shot on a young guy who might be the next Sean McVay for all we know. That's where I'm at with this organization is just take a shot on the young unproven guy because you're going to like there's no pro to taking like a proven guy who's like, okay, this is what we're going to need to succeed. We're cheap. We're not going to do it. It fails anyway. Like I would rather have a Mike LaFleur than a John Gannon, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm fine with the hire. I actually kind of, I don't want to say I'm excited for the future because it's a bleak existence, but like I'm excited for the potential of what maybe could be.
Well, it sounded like, I mean, just to sort of translate your PR speak into real person talk, you're down in the dumps. You're down in the dumps a little bit. So there's nothing to lose. So you just pick a guy and just run with it. Anyone that's not named John Gannon. But I can't help but notice how much you hated on the idea of Matt Nagy going there. So maybe there is something to lose. It was Matt Nagy.
Yes, I would have hated Matt Nagy and I would have hated Raheem Morris. But like those guys have already shown like they can't do it, right? And that's what I mean by hiring the young guys. Like
I know what you mean.
Matt Nagy's an idiot. Raheem Morris is a fucking idiot. Like, I don't want either of those guys. They've both been head coaches and they failed. And you can make excuses or arguments as to why they didn't succeed. Was it their organization? What was it? Like, we've already seen them attempt it. I would rather take a shot on an unproven guy that might actually be something versus go get someone like Matt Nagy and then we're like, okay, well this is a now waste of 3 years because we're not going to improve at all and we're not going to have anything to show for it at the end of it. So that's kind of my thought.
Okay, so just another question.
Yeah.
The big thing for someone like me who's outside of the Cardinals organization, what are you doing with Kyler Murray? And does this hire benefit Kyler Murray, or do you think it's going to be more of like Kyler Murray's someone else's guy, so there's no loyalty to Kyler Murray?
I've thought about that quite a bit when this news dropped. I think I want to move on from Kyler. I really do. Like I don't think he has, and we've talked about it on the show plenty of times, like the leadership attributes that you want to see out of your quarterback. I don't think Kyler has those. And you see it. You don't see him lifting up his team. You don't see him being that prototypical archetype that you would expect from a leader. So I want to move on from him. But looking at the situation, there's not a lot. There's really three options for the Cardinals at this point. You either keep him, which is certainly on the table. You trade him, and you're going to get pennies on the dollar for him because realistically, when you look at his contract situation, if they move on from him, it's in March. I want to say it's early to mid-March. If they move on from Kyler Murray, then or cut him rather, they can save $52 million, somewhere in the realm of $52 million in cap space. But teams know that, right? Like like if I'm sitting here at home and I know that, you best believe that organizations know that there is a chance that we could just cut him and then he's a free agent, right?
What you're saying is a team does not have to go offer the Arizona Cardinals anything because they're expecting them to just drop him at some point.
Correct. So like if we were to trade him, we're probably looking at like a 4th or a 5th round pick at best, because realistically, the likelihood that we cut him is still on the table, and then the Jets could go get him, which is looking like probably one of the only landing spots where he could realistically go. So that's kind of where it's at. And the Jets have their own problems too. Like they just cut their entire coaching
You might as well
staff.
not even start to name the Jets' problems because we'll be here all day.
Yeah. So, but if we keep him, this hire's interesting for me in that regard because LaFleur, which Sean McVay runs the offense. We all know that. Like, he is calling the plays there. However, if LaFleur implements a Sean McVay-esque offense, what they do really well is a lot of play action, a lot of he makes it easy on the quarterbacks, which in our prior regime with Canton and Petzig, that wasn't happening as much. And that's where Kyler Murray thrives, is in those play action, quick hitting plays. And so I think if I was LaFleur, I would be interested in potentially keeping him around at least through next season, because inversely, we don't have a quarter. I mean, we have, I don't even know if Brissett's still on contract through this upcoming year. So realistically, I think the likelihood that Kyler Murray is a starting quarterback for the Cardinals next year is starting to look more like that is probably going to be the case. And I'm okay with that. Like I said, I want to move on from him in my heart of hearts. That's what I think we should do. But I also don't know what's on the table from an organizational standpoint of what do we do with the quarterback position moving forward? Because either we need to continue to tank and suck, or like into next year and get a quarterback and roll with Brissett, or figure it out with Murray. And I mean, that's really the two situations that
you got a top 10 pick in this year's draft. We do
have number 3.
I'll be the first to tell you, or top 5 pick. Yeah, even better. I'll be the first to tell you I don't know enough about college football or the prospects coming out to know if there are any quarterbacks that the Cardinals might be interested in picking up.
No, it's Fernando Mendoza, and the quarterback class is pretty weak, this class, and the next year is supposedly going to be a very front-load heavy quarterback class. So, but we could always sell the pick, which honestly I think we need an offensive lineman. So that's what I would do, is build the lines. It's not sexy, it's not fun, but that's what we need to do. So that's kind of what I see happening. Is I if I was to bet on the probability that Kyler Murray is our starting quarterback next year, I would say I would take that bet, because I think that's going to be what's going to happen. So
I'm sorry that that's the case.
It's okay. It is what it is. I have a Kyler Murray jersey, so I guess I can wear it for one more year.
Yeah, there you go.
Looking at a glass half full standpoint, but let's go over to the Raiders here and talk about it, because Clint Kubiak, who is currently the Seahawks offensive coordinator, will become the head coach for the Raiders after the Super Bowl. So he'll finalize the contract after the Super Bowl is completed. That is the buzz in the town, which will then pair him with Fernando Mendoza as the QB1. I think Raiders fans should be excited about this. Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks head coach is a defensive-minded guy, so really that entire offense has bloomed under Kubiak, and it's really the offense looked really exciting this year. I mean, there was a lot of question marks, and I don't want to show my hand about the Seahawks conversation too much, but this applies. Like, Kubiak did a phenomenal job with this offense. And so and there are weapons with the Raiders, and that's not to say there's a lot, but you get Fernando Mendoza, you've got Bowers, you have Ashton Genty. So like there are tools to play with and toys in the toy box here for him. I think Raiders fans should be excited. The thing that they really need to focus on is, improving their offensive line, and their defense is also a huge problem. But you got to be excited about Kubiak, and I'm sure Raiders fans are. So I think that was a good hire by them.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's got to be one of the most sought after coaches in this cycle here, because when you look at what the Seahawks, for his entire tenure, their offense has always been pretty good. But this year in particular, I mean, JSN, we knew he was a talent, but he has just excelled to like the top tier of the NFL in terms of talent. And then, the biggest thing is just Sam Darnold, which we know Sam Darnold now has had 2 pretty good seasons in a row. So, and, of course he was a high draft pick, obviously, and had a successful college career. So we knew that he was capable of it. But when you saw the way that his career started, and we'll talk about this a little bit more with the Seahawks game, but there's still, I think it would be dishonest for pretty much every NFL fan to look at Sam Darnold going into the Super Bowl and saying, yeah, I got a lot of faith in Sam Darnold. I think everybody still has that sort of residual doubt. And what you saw with Kubiak was him just handle Sam Darnold masterfully. Like, hey, you've had kind of a checkered career so far, but let's see what we can do to make this not only one of the best teams in the NFL, but one of the most high-powered, explosive offenses in the NFL this year. And if you're a coordinator that's doing that, you're calling the plays and making that happen with someone like Sam Darnold, abso-fucking-lutely. Like, the Raiders should be stoked. It really makes me sad as a Chiefs fan that the Raiders got him, but yeah, of course Raiders fans are like hype as hell.
Sure. Now, this next coaching candidate that is now the head coach for the Bills has me scratching my head, and that was Joe Brady. He was promoted. He was the offensive coordinator for the Bills, and he was promoted to head coach. So Josh Allen, he gets that continuity. James Cook and Brady gets a 5-year deal to keep the Bills window open. This, to me, just seems... I'm trying to think of the right words for it, Scotty. Like... spiteful. The Bills organization seems spiteful. Genuinely, like if you look at this, he was already the offensive coordinator for the Bills. So like if you're thinking fantasy football, the continuity's there. Like you can rest your head easy on your pillow at night knowing that Josh Allen still has the same offensive mind. He's still like James Cook is still going to be relevant. Offensively, they're fine. But if you take a step back and you look at the Bills organization, it seems like there was a very clear dispute between Sean McDermott and the Bills organization. And this is coming, we talked about this last week. Like McDermott was very vocal that I don't have the players or the roster that I need in order to win the Super Bowl. He was very vocal about that. And this almost seems like the Bills, it was more of a spite move than anything else. Like what you had the opportunity, like the Bills are the most favorable landing spot of all of football with, as far as like, they have a head coaching vacancy. Like any coach is going to be salivating at the mouth for the opportunity to go get to play with Josh Allen. Like he is arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. You have the opportunity to really go shine there. And instead you just promoted your offensive coordinator to head coach and kicked your head coach out the door. To me, this just looks like they had a problem, like a discrepancy with McDermott. And they want to keep the same status quo by making Brady the head coach. Like that to me is just really head scratching. It's like you had a problem with McDermott. You didn't have a problem with everything else. It was just McDermott and the front office had very clear differences, and that's why they moved on from it. It felt not as much like a business decision and more of like an
emotional sort of reactionary situation.
That's my viewpoint anyway. I don't know if you share that same viewpoint.
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed on it because I tend to think that McDermott, it was time for him to go. I think he's had a lot of success relatively with the Buffalo Bills. They've been a very successful team over his tenure, but they've never been able to get over the hump. And I've made this argument, I've been very consistent in this. I've made this argument about people like Mike Tomlin too, which is just time. Like it's time to make a change. It's time to see if you're right there. You just need a little bit of a culture shift to see if you can get over that hump. With the Bills, it is interesting though, because if I sat down across from Sean McDermott and he said, listen, I've had Josh Allen. I'm very blessed that I've had Josh Allen, and we've had a lot of success largely due to the fact that we have Josh Allen. But it's never quite been perfect. It's never been the perfect storm. And you look at, some of these, the Chiefs teams that have just been dominant. Like you go back to the 2018, Tyreek Hill year where the Chiefs defense was left a little bit to be desired, but was good enough. And then the offense was just crazy. It just kind of felt like everything came together. Coaching, quarterback, defense was good enough. Everything came together. And I would argue that the Bills have never had that. They've always been missing something. When they've had good defenses, they've had rough offensive lines or a coordinator who doesn't know how to work with Josh Allen. When they have a good system on offense where they're more balanced and Josh Allen doesn't have to play hero ball and they've got James Cook running well and their offensive line is good, then the defense tends to let them down or they have a lot of injuries. Like there's always been something that has kept them from crossing the goal line. And I really think you can make a fair argument that it was time to get rid of Sean McDermott. You can also make a pretty fair argument that it wasn't really his fault and it was just the stars never aligned and they had a lot of success, but they just never got to the Super Bowl. So I tend to think it's probably good that they moved on from him, but honestly, with the head coaches that were available, there were a couple that would be appealing.
Like, would you get more excited if you were a Bills fan if Clint Kubiak was your head coach versus Joe Brady?
Clint Kubiak for sure. But honestly, Joe Brady has done a pretty good job with this offense. I mean, we've talked about Joe Brady as the guy who came in and settled the offense down, settled Josh Allen down, made it more balanced, made everything more efficient. Joe Brady did that. I mean, and he should get credit for that over the last couple of seasons. So it makes sense to me that they'd want to give him a shot. The sort of controversial part is the fact that, okay, this is a young guy who's new. It's an inside hire and we have Josh Allen and we're in a window. So let's go win right now. So you can make the argument that it's not the right hire at this very moment, but I think you can make a pretty good argument that Joe Brady is a decent hire given the success that he's had with that offense over the last couple of years.
Yeah. And I don't hate that mentality because I like, and I'm glad you brought it up. Like they have found that balance that they so desperately needed because Josh Allen is getting older, and that's not to say that he's still not phenomenal, but like he shouldn't be playing hero ball unless it warrants it and like it's absolutely necessary. And that was one of the digs on him over the last couple of years was like, dude, Josh Allen is taking some crazy hits and like he's going to get hurt. And so for them to really lean on James Cook in the run game more this season, I still think they need a pass catcher. I mean, their pass catchers are abysmal, but Brady has done a good job in that way. And maybe that was the stability that they were looking for where they didn't want to. They are in a window, right? Like, I mean, you just said that. Like they are in a window right now, and you don't want to go take a shot on a Mike LaFleur. You don't want to go take a shot on somebody who hasn't been a head coach before. And you did with Joe Brady, but at the very least, he understands the organization. He understands the team. He understands the culture. He understands everything that envelops that. And so while he might be a first-time head coach, at the very least, he's very familiar with the ins and outs of the Bills organization. So I don't know. I still think it was more of an emotional decision that they moved on from McDermott. And that's not to say that it was a bad call. But we'll
have to wait and see. I mean, it's possible that McDermott was a glue that was holding that team together through adversity, which they experienced a lot of adversity over the last several years. So it's possible that McDermott was actually putting them in he was elevating them more so than any of us realize.
Yeah.
But I tend to think, if you've got Josh Allen, for the last half decade and you haven't even made a Super Bowl, the biggest thing that it sucks for Bills fans because, obviously they have this rivalry with Tom Brady and the Patriots who just dominated them for so long. And then now we're in a post-Brady era where the Patriots are back in the Super Bowl before Josh Allen has made a Super Bowl. So the Patriots won a bunch of them. Then Tom Brady leaves. Now they're back in the Super Bowl with a retooled team, new offense, new head coach, and they're back in the Super Bowl before Josh Allen. And it's sort of like if you're in the Bills front office, you're sitting there going, we have to do something. We have to make a change because this can't be happening. And so it may be emotional, but it's also like, it's understandable, and it's probably the right move for them to make.
Yeah. In other news, the Cleveland Browns have what I would say is the most Cleveland Browns situation ever to happen to them, continued to happen to the organization. They hired Todd Monken. He was the Ravens offensive coordinator. May call this a revenge hire within the AFC North. But the comical part of this, and I don't know how plugged in you are to the Browns organization, but I found this to be absolutely hilarious. So their defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, so there were a couple candidates that the Browns were looking at, and they would bring them in, and then you would see in the headlines this candidate has removed himself from the candidacy pool for the Browns. Well, so that was all playing out, and then it come to find out they were removing themselves because the Browns were very adamant that whoever they hire as their head coach, they had to keep the defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, as the defensive coordinator. Like, he was staying. So whoever their head coach was, Jim Schwartz was going to stay. So Todd Monken goes in. He says, all right, I'll do it. And then Jim Schwartz gives the Browns the middle finger because he wasn't promoted to head coach and he's now leaving. And so the Browns could have had maybe some other options besides Todd Monken, but they all said, no, we don't want to use this defensive coordinator. They hire their head coach and their defensive coordinator quits because they don't want to work with him anymore. So I found that to be absolutely hysterical and seems like the most Browns-esque hire that, like, the Browns-esque situation that could have played out. I don't love this hire for the Browns. I don't think Todd Monken, and this is probably a hot take or an unpopular opinion, I didn't think it was that. I don't, like, if you look at the Ravens offense the last couple of years, I don't think it was that great. I really don't. And you're playing with Lamar Jackson, who was a multi-MVP award-winning quarterback, but, like, the offense doesn't look that great. Like, the offense hasn't looked that great. And I think in my mind, I just expect more of the Browns to be the Browns with this hire. This hire, to me, like, if we would have got Todd Monken, I would be much more disappointed than Mike LaFleur, is what I'll say, because I don't have a lot of belief in Todd Monken.
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to think, looking at the Ravens, the Ravens are one of those teams, sort of like the Bills, honestly, where if you flip the script on, like, a handful of individual plays, not even individual games, but individual plays, and we're talking about this Ravens team being a powerhouse over the last, 5 years, because they have been very, very, very close to having a lot of success. They've had, one or two Mark Andrews drops away from making, deep, deep playoff runs. And this offense has been pretty good. I'm sort of torn. This is another one where I think I could make an argument for either side. Like, on one side, it's like, okay, you have Lamar Jackson, and where are your trophies? Lamar Jackson is constantly talked about like he's one of the top quarterback prospects or one of the top quarterback talents in the league. Where are your trophies? Like, what's the deal? But the other part of me is like, if you have to design an offense around Lamar Jackson, he is dynamic. He's awesome. He's a great athlete, but the offense has to look a certain way. You're sort of boxed in terms of your scheme. You have to design everything around what Lamar Jackson's skill set is. And yeah, we've seen some development from him in terms of his passing game, but it's sort of like this might give him a new opportunity to build a team how he wants it to be built, and it might look a lot different than what he had in Baltimore. And maybe at this opportunity, he's going to be more creative. From the offensive mind
with what Deshaun Watson and
I agree. It's pretty much a lose-lose situation at the Browns right now. Like, they have to figure it out because Shador's a Pro Bowler, first of all. Every year there's one guy who gets disrespected even though he's a Pro Bowler, and he had his jersey retired in Colorado, by the way. Nobody talks about that. Shador is amazing. Jersey retired, Pro Bowler year one. Wow, legend. But yes, you're right that any person who ends up in Cleveland just has a lot of shit that they've got to deal with, and they're definitely facing an uphill battle. So the good news is that the expectations are pretty low, and if he finds some success or is able to turn some things around, then people are going to love him there.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. I really don't, which I'm sorry, Browns fans, but I think you're going to have more years of being the Browns. And Stefanski had certain levels of success with the Browns, and I think that you're not going to sniff that for a long time. On a different note, the Baltimore Ravens, they officially hired Jesse Minter as their new head coach. And to give a little bit of background on Minter, he's a Harbaugh tree guy. So he was a defensive assistant at Baltimore for 3 years. Then he became the defensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, and then later with the Chargers. So defensive hiring there for the Ravens from the head coaching perspective. I don't know how I feel about this because, the Ravens to me are also one of those teams who you could make the same argument as the Bills are kind of in that window. And like Lamar Jackson's not getting any younger. And so, but they went and got a defensive minded guy who hasn't been a head coach before. I don't know. I mean, I'm not excited about this hire, but it just, I don't know. Doesn't get me excited about it.
You can copy and paste our entire conversation with the Bills into the Ravens because it's
almost worse though, because I don't know.
I mean, I think you can make the same arguments though, but for Minter that you did with Brady. That he's a new head coach.
Yeah, but at least Brady's an offensive guy.
I get that, but this guy, he knows the culture. He knows the Harbaugh culture. He understands the situation that he's walking into, so it's not quite as bad as just hiring a random first-time head coach off the street. So you can make a lot of the same arguments. Just with these first-year guys, you always just kind of have to wait and see. I was skeptical of someone like Ben Johnson which obviously he's proved that now, you should have some degree of faith in him. But I was skeptical of him because he was coming from an offense that had so much firepower that it was like, okay, is it him or is it just the roster? And in this case, it's like, I don't really have any opinions. We just have to wait and see what kind of happens, I guess.
I have a question for you. Are we still a Bears podcast? Like, when does us not being a Bears podcast officially start? I mean, they're out of it now, but the season's not technically done. Like, is there a hard cut line on when we're not a Bears podcast anymore? Should we consult with Alan?
We should definitely consult with Alan. My opinion is that we're still in this season. So I think we're a Bears podcast until the bitter end.
Okay.
You could make an argument that the bitter end has come and gone because they've been out of it. But
correct.
I would make the argument that the season's still going on. And I think we come up with our new team that we are pseudo fans of in the offseason. And once we do that, that's when the passing of the torch happens from the Bears to Team X.
Okay. All right. Some other ancillary head coaches. Raheem Morris, former Falcons head coach, is now the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. I actually like this move for him. I think Raheem Morris was not the right guy for the Falcons, but I do think, he's not a terrible coordinator. And there are some coaches that are not cut out to be head coaches. I don't think he's one of them, but I think he is a good coordinator. And the 49ers have a really great defense. The other thing I wanted to talk about before we pivot over to the Rooney Rule conversation, Scotty, is NFL's usage of video review for missed player safety calls. So things like roughing the passer, hip drop tackles, unnecessary roughness, things along those lines. The NFL is conversing about pivoting to that. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, dude, this is just one of those things. It's tough because
it's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope. It's one of those things that you don't want, and this has happened so many times. As the NFL has cracked down on stuff like this, especially to protect quarterbacks, games have been decided by these being called or not called. And you don't want that, right? You don't want something that should be a penalty that should significantly impact one team not be called a penalty because a ref just missed it. So, in an ideal world, if a rule is a rule, you want it to be called fairly and as fairly as possible and as consistently as possible, which would suggest, if it's something that can be, if you look at the replay and you say, okay, well, that should have been a penalty, yes. On the other side of it, it's like, do we really want more of these penalties? Do we really want more time in review? Do we really want to go to New York more often? Like, is it moving away from football being officiated in that time and place and more to some sort of remote officiating from some guy with a camera when he's looking at this image, slowed down by 10 times and it's not live? Like,
do you want it or do you not want it?
I see both sides of this argument. I tend to lean more toward you want the calls to be called correctly and whatever you got to do to make that happen. If you're going to have rules, they should be called consistently. And if you can't call them consistently, the rule shouldn't exist. So do whatever you can to call them consistently.
I don't want it because I think to your what you were stating earlier, like, I think it's going to slow down the game. I think that's part of the sport. Now, there's things that I am in favor of from a technological perspective, like the chain gang. Why we have two grandpas out there with a stick and two sticks in a chain, and that's how we measure football. That to me is crazy. Like,
tradition.
The technology is there. But it's stupid. Like, the technology is available for us not to have two old men waddle out there with a stick and say, "Yep, it's a first down." Like, that's fine. I'm okay with getting rid of that, but the refs are still on the field for a reason, and like, some things are going to get missed. And if you incorporate like video and video review into things, like, I think that just opens the floodgates to call everything, and then the game drastically changes. And so I'm against it because I think the human element of the refs, while a lot of times for your team, Scotty, it goes in your favor.
Okay, all right. We're not rehashing this now. That conversation is so 2 years ago.
Whether it goes in your favor or not, I think like that the human element of the refs is still in play. So on things like this, for like missed review stuff for player safety, I understand. Like, I'm not sitting here saying I want players to get hurt, but I still want that human element of like, you're watching the ball run down the field and somebody gets fucking clocked and you're like, what the heck? And it's not called. And it's like, yeah, that's bullshit. But the refs didn't see it because they were looking at 10 other things at the same time. So
yeah, I think that there's definitely a line to be walked here because you don't want this for something like holding or for something like pass interference because those are, as much as we all complain about those calls, they're so arbitrary. Like it just kind of depends. Like you can call holding on every play. You could probably call pass interference on every pass. You don't want it for that reason because then it's just like the opinion of the guy in New York versus the opinion of the referee. Yeah. But for player safety, something like you have, I think of like nothing in particular comes to mind, but I know there have been many situations where a quarterback throws the ball and is like he's no longer in the play and he just gets decapitated and the ref doesn't see it. And you're talking about something that is so egregious and obvious. It should be like an expedited review. Like they don't have to look at it for 3 minutes. They don't have to go to commercial break. They just say, hey, that quarterback just got decapitated from behind. Like obviously that's a penalty. Or the hip drop tackle. They made a big deal about this hip drop tackle and they barely ever called it in live play. From what I understand, there have been like fines after the fact, whatever, but they rarely ever call it, even though it's really obvious when it happens. One of the arguments I made for the hip drop tackle rule is that you can't really define it. And so like, it's not really a good rule because you can't define it. And sure. Allen made the point like, well, we all know what it is. And he was right. Because after now seeing the rule and whatever, and being aware of it and watching football, yeah, you definitely can tell when the hip drop tackle takes place. So that's something expedited review takes 2 seconds. Yeah, that was a penalty. Call it. Like that stuff I think I'm okay with.
Okay. Are you okay with the Rooney Rule? Because it is under fire right now, Scotty. A dark cloud has emerged over the league this week as the hiring cycle has finally concluded. So, we had 10 head coaching vacancies. Only one minority candidate was hired, being Robert Saleh for the Titans, and 0 black head coaches were hired. Oh, no. The league will enter 2026 with only 3 black head coaches, being Todd Bowles, Aaron Glenn, and D'Amico Ryans. This has sparked quite a new wave of criticism over on social media and the Fritz Pollard Alliance, and as like I said, across social media as well, leading to renewed debates about the pipeline versus the hiring process. We need more black head coaches, Scotty. It seems to be what the Rooney Rule is really harping down on.
Here's the thing: the Rooney Rule has a core contention at its heart. It makes one point, and that point that the Rooney Rule is making is that the NFL is systematically racist against black people. The NFL is systematically racist against black people.
Do you read what they put at the end, like in the end zones a couple years back of end racism, Scotty?
Yeah, bro. And be kind and choose love and all those Miss Rachel quotes. Yeah, they've made many appearances. I agree. No, of course, the idea that the NFL is racist against black people is like maybe the dumbest thing that anyone has ever said. Like, of course. Like,
so why is the Rooney Rule in place?
Because the NFL, again, is run by all of these college graduates that they go to Berkeley and they go to Brown and they think that they need to act a certain way and institute certain policies based on race, even though the rest of the country is looking at the NFL and saying, this is a meritocracy. If you're a good football player, you should have a contract and make millions of dollars. I love that. I don't care what color you are. If you're a good head coach, I don't give a fuck what color you are. And by the way, that's the way the NFL operates in practice. They just have to pretend that they care about race, which is why the Rooney Rule is unique because it pisses off people on both sides of the spectrum. On one side of the spectrum, there are people who say we need a rule in place so black head coaches have an opportunity because racism or whatever. On the other side, people are saying, who gives a shit about race? If you're good at your job, you should get hired. I don't care what color you are. And the Rooney Rule uniquely pisses off both sides because on one side, like the Rooney Rule, the way the Rooney Rule right now is basically like when you give a toddler a fake controller that's not plugged in, so they think they're playing the video game with you, but they're not. And like, of course, if you're a black guy who wants to be a head coach, that is like the most insulting fucking bullshit of all time. Like, it should absolutely piss you off. But then on the other side of the spectrum here, the NFL is, I don't know, like 80% black, and the country is, 15% black? So yeah, black people are massively overrepresented, and that shouldn't matter. Like, your skin color should be as irrelevant as your hair color. Who gives a shit? But there's like this core group of of morons that are going to board meetings and trying their hardest to make race like the most pivotal thing about the NFL every year. They're sitting there and making racism, like reviving it with paddles, doing CPR. They refuse to let it die. The rest of us are like, please, God, let's just move on and let's just play football. And they're like, no, we have to talk about racism. Please, God, keep it alive. We got to keep talking about racism. These people are so stupid. And I feel like no matter what color you are, no matter what team you support, no matter what your gender is or where you are in the country, everybody's so fucking done with this. Just get rid of the Rooney Rule. And let's just say, we can play the numbers game if they want to play the numbers game. They say, only 3 black head coaches are in the NFL out of 32 teams. Well, that's about 9%. So to get to 15% in order to reflect the black population in America, okay, you got to hire like 1 or 2 more guys. The question is, what if you hire 3 more black coaches? Then black coaches are overrepresented. Are these people going to come back and say, whoa, we need fewer black head coaches? They're overrepresented. Oh my gosh. They're not going to say that. And the reason they're not going to say that is because it has nothing to do with hiring black coaches. What they want is fewer white people, because that is what's politically popular in today's America. Unfortunately, we live in that timeline. They want fewer white people. The less white people, the better. And that's the primary goal, which is why none of this makes any sense in practice. Like, we look at reality and it's all fucking dumb because these people aren't being honest about what their actual goals are.
And that concludes Scotty's rant on the Rooney Rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. I mean, I'm not going to go on a big old rant, but you're not wrong. Like, the thing for me is, are you good at your job? If you're good at your job, I don't care if you have 3 antennas sticking out of your fucking head. If you can coach me to a Super Bowl, then sign me the fuck up. Sarge's take said, well said, Scotty. And he's got a sweet mustache, cartoon mustache.
Yeah, that's actually my fake YouTube profile or X profile. I just comment to hype myself up.
Thanks for the comment, Sarge. We appreciate you, buddy. All right, let's pivot over and talk about one of the most fictitious things that exists in the NFL, aside from the Rooney Rule. I mean, that's a real thing, but it's
I know what you mean though. That's a good segue.
Yeah. The salary cap, Scotty. We joke on this show all year round, all the time. It is, if anybody has listened to this show for more than one episode, you will hear us say the salary cap is not real. And it's not, but as of January 30th, the NFL informed teams of a financial shift. The 2026 salary cap is projected to land between $301.2 million and $305.7 million. Why does this matter, Scotty, if the salary cap does not exist? Well, let me tell you. This is the first time in history that the salary cap will exceed $300 million per team. This is almost roughly in the ballpark of a $20 million jump from last year, in nearly $100 million higher than it was in just 2022. So why do we say that the salary cap isn't real? Because it just keeps going up. So it doesn't matter. The salary doesn't matter at all, because every year we're talking almost $100 million in the span of 4 years. Like, that's fucking nuts.
I got a question. Has the salary cap officially gone up enough so the Saints are no longer in cap hell, or are they still in cap hell?
I think they're approaching it. The Saints are probably always in cap hell. I think that's just the joke, is the Saints will always be in cap space purgatory. But that, to your point, like, yeah, these teams that were in cap space purgatory are now finding themselves, like, the ladder is being thrown down in the hole, because it doesn't matter, because they can just have more money and they can spend more money on players. So the cap space isn't real, and I did not realize it was $100 million in the span of 4 years. That is so much money, and it's like, that's bullshit. Like,
ooh, bad news. The Saints are second to last in terms of salary cap space, so they're still in cap hell, it appears.
Oh my God! Well, this $20 million might afford them another Derek Carr-esque contract. The biggest winners here are the Titans and the Seahawks. The Titans will have over $104 million in cap space, and the Seahawks, who are going into the Super Bowl, will sit at roughly $73 million in cap space. That's crazy. Like, the NFL needs to figure this out, because it is going to create problems. Like, it's like the United States, and it's like, well, if we need more cash, let's just print it. Like, that's,
I don't know if that's a 1-to-1 correlation there, but
no, it's
but
not.
You're right.
But
like, I don't know. It feels like all of the conversation about the salary cap is only kind of legitimate. Like it almost feels like a facade that's being put on to pretend like it's not just like the owner buying players, which is pretty much what's happening as the salary cap continues to go up. And, you can make an argument that it should. I mean, at this point,
should you? I mean, Kyler Murray. If we cut Kyler Murray, we save $50 million. Well, shit, it doesn't matter because we just got $20 million for free. I mean, not like the owner still have to spend it, but like we're not capped now,
right?
So like it. I don't know. There's got to be something here, and people like George Pickens and Trey Hendrickson, who are free agents, and people are going to be eyeing them. You could probably expect record-breaking extensions for these guys or extensions or signings because the cap space just keeps going up. And we've said this for years, and we've said like the cap space isn't real. Well, it's not real because it just keeps going up, and so the price you pay today is not the price you pay next year. So when you got your guy, sign him because you're only going to have more money to play with later. And if you wait till the very end, look at Patrick Mahomes. They signed him to a freaking 10-year deal, and he's not even a top 10 paid quarterback anymore because the cap space just keeps going up. And then you got to pay people like Trevor Lawrence top 5 quarterback money, and he ain't worth it. But it doesn't matter because the cap space just keeps going up.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like we can sit here and poke holes in the salary cap situation all day long, but everybody's on the same playing field. Everybody understands the rules. Everybody understands what's happening. So it's not really an excuse to not find the success that you should be finding. I mean, yeah, you might have to pay Trevor Lawrence top 5 money, and you can argue whether or not that's worth it. But everybody knows like what the situation is. Like you just said, for example, if you got your guy, pay him. Well, you could make an argument that they like Trevor Lawrence more than some other random guy in the draft, so just pay him now because if he ends up performing like he did in the latter half of this season for the rest of his career, well, it's going to look like a fucking steal for the rest of that contract.
Sure, yeah. I don't know. I just figured I'd bring it up because we're talking about as the NFL landscape changes, and while we're talking about the landscape changing in the NFL, it's a global takeover, buddy. Roger Goodell held a State of the League address today, and the big theme was 2026 is the year of international games. So they are playing a game in Paris. The Saints will host the first ever regular season game in Paris. The Madrid multi-year contract. So after a successful test run this last year, the NFL signed a multi-year deal with Real Madrid to play games at their stadium every year starting this fall. And then by the end of 2026, the NFL will have played in 9 different countries, which include Paris, Madrid, Munich, Rio de Janeiro, Melbourne, which is Australia, London, Mexico City, and Toronto. I freaking hate these games. I hate it. And I hate it as a fan because I got to wake up early and watch these games, and now my entire Sunday spent on the couch versus the large majority of it. But the other thing too, and I know you've touched on this before, is like, can you count them as games? Because now players have to go travel across the freaking world in an environment that they're not comfortable in and are not familiar with, and their schedules are all screwed up. Like, even for your teams when they go play in these countries, it's like you would write off a game that the Chiefs and Chargers played week 1 because you're like, well, that was in a different country, doesn't count. And it's like, it counts, but it's not fair of the teams.
Yeah, it's not necessarily indicative of your team's capability or future performance. Here's the thing. I got a solution. I think this is a good solution, and I just thought of it right now, so maybe don't be too
I think
critical.
Roger listens.
Okay, Roger, listen. You want more games happening around the world, but the fans...
I'll be Roger here.
Okay, the fans think they're bullshit. And especially when you have division rivalry games in some foreign country, it's bullshit. And you and I both know it's fucking bullshit. So maybe have your preseason games be the games that are taking place around the world, where you have starters only playing for a quarter, the games don't actually count, and the foreign fans don't give a shit because it's their one chance to watch football, so they're going to show up and they're going to pay for the ticket because it's their only opportunity to do so. Just do the preseason games if you want to do it.
Well, Scotty, I love this idea, but you got to think about the money. And when they get to watch Josh Allen play for 4 quarters instead of just 1, well, then the stands might start filtering out because it's not our best game.
Roger. I see the confusion here.
Okay.
When you are sending NFL teams around the world, more often than not, the stadiums in which they are playing usually host soccer games. And I'm here to tell you that third-string players on any NFL team are more entertaining than the best soccer players who have ever lived because soccer is bullshit. So if they're willing to pay to watch soccer, they're definitely willing to pay to watch a lesser version of American football for sure.
I actually like that idea. I don't give a shit about the preseason. I'll watch them because I'm so starved for football.
Yeah.
So then you get a viewership for me and you can hit on other markets. I'm fine with that. But to put your teams on this global footprint, I get you want to make the game national, but don't make me suffer for it.
Well, at the very least, limit it to not division rivalries and make sure it's in the first half of the season. So they basically make the games matter as little as possible. So that way there is as little impact as possible. And also, stop expanding them. Because this is plenty of overseas games. You could argue that this is way too many overseas games.
It is.
Stop adding more and make them at the beginning of the season. Avoid division rivalries, and I think that's maybe a nice middle ground between diehard fans and Roger Goodell. I think we just say, okay, let's just cap it right here, and do it.
Fine.
But before week 7 and before, and no division rivalries, and we'll agree to disagree and call it good.
Okay. Scotty, I think this is a wonderful idea. Send it over to the front office. Right. And now let's take a break and shout out our sponsor.
This combo meal's got combinations. Make this thing your own creation. Entree, drink, and choice of sides. Oh, and it's free to swap fries. BK, have it your way.
We spent a lot of time on this show talking about who's winning on the field, but I want to make sure you guys are winning off of it as well. So if you aren't using the Burger King app, you're leaving points on the table, baby. They revamped their Royal Perks program, and it is actually easier to get free food now than it was last season. They simplified their tiers, so you only need 200 crowns to start cashing out for things like cheeseburgers or crispy hash browns. Plus, for my fellow value hunters, such as myself, when you use the app, you can upsize one fry or drink for free every single day. It is a total pro move, I'm telling you guys. So before you settle in for the Super Bowl this weekend, download the Burger King app, sign up for the Royal Perks, and start earning, because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, you absolutely rule. All right, Scotty, the Hall of Fame snub. Let's talk about it. The biggest headline regarding Bill Belichick as of right now in this moment is he did not receive the necessary votes to be a first ballot inductee into the Pro Football Hall of Fame class for 2026. So the rule did change. The Hall recently changed its rules, allowing head coaches to become eligible after just 1 year of retiring and or leaving the NFL. So this made Bill eligible as of this year. Reports surfaced on Thursday that he failed to reach the 80% threshold. There's a total of 50 votes. He needs 40. He did not get that. This has sent the NFL media and social media into an absolute frenzy, with even Tom Brady went on record saying he doesn't understand it and calling this decision egregious. So we will get the official word during the NFL honors ceremony this Thursday, but the consensus is that the greatest coach of all time will now have to wait at least another year for his gold jacket. I couldn't believe it. And look, I'm not even a fan of Bill Belichick. I don't really like the guy that much. But to not make him a first ballot Hall of Fame head coach, what are they smoking in there? What kind of drugs do they have going on in there for them to say, no, he's not it? Fire him. Get rid of all of them. This is the most egregious thing I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, no, it's obviously very, very stupid. It does not make any sense whatsoever, because you can't make an argument for any coach to be a first ballot Hall of Famer if Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
That's agreed.
It's impossible. You can't do it. You're going to sound like you're going to sound like one of these Rooney Rule morons. You can't make a coherent argument for any other coach in the history of football to be a first ballot Hall of Famer if Bill Belichick is not one. So it makes you wonder, there have been a lot of conspiracies floated around, they didn't like Bill Belichick for one reason or another, and it's sort of like a vindictive decision to not include him.
It's bullshit.
There's definitely zero legitimate reason. And I feel like at this point, this is almost like old news. Everyone's just kind of moved on, but you shouldn't be. We've talked for a long time about how the Hall of Fame is kind of dumb in general. It's just kind of arbitrary. There are probably way too many people in the Hall of Fame, relative to Like, they should be a more exclusive club, maybe. But you can make the Hall of Fame literally, I don't know, 2 people, and it would be Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Like, if you were to make it as exclusive as possible, those are the 2 people you have to have in the Hall of Fame for it to be a Hall of Fame.
Well, and I think this further goes into the mentality of the Hall of Fame as a joke. Like, if you're not going to put Bill Belichick in there, this only further makes that argument of like the Hall of Fame is too much, or like there's too much going on in there. There's too many players, too many coaches. Like, I think that almost furthers the argument that this is becoming a joke, much like the Pro Bowl. Like, if you don't include one of the most successful head coaches of all time in the Hall of Fame as a first ballot, this is a joke. This is turning into the Pro Bowls, what the Hall of Fame is, and that's sad. And it makes me disappointed as an NFL fan to know that is the state of where things are going with the likes of the Pro Bowl and the Hall of Fame. It's
a damn good thing football is an awesome sport, because between the Hall of Fame going to shit and the Pro Bowl going to shit and the Miss Rachel quotes written on the helmets and the whatever the chief kindness police, I don't know. All of this is enough to make a reasonable person like you and I. We're enough of NFL fans that we started a podcast. So like, we're in the top tier of insane people who are obsessed with this. But like, regular people who just have their team and watch their team play, for a few hours on the weekend, this is plenty to just be like, why do I watch this? Like, why am I participating in this? This is all just so stupid. It's so bullshit. Like, it makes me sad. It makes my heart hurt. But it's a good thing football is so awesome, because watching all these young men make their dreams and do awesome stuff and become millionaires, like the story is so great that it overcomes a lot of the bullshit. But the bullshit is really
it's starting to pile up. And we need to get back to the core, the grit, the determination. We need Dan Campbell to be the new commissioner of the NFL. Is what I think needs to happen. He'll clean house.
I don't know, because I don't know if there's enough, like Roger Goodell, as you could say whatever you want about him. He's a busy guy. He's got a tight schedule. And Dan Campbell, I don't know if there's going to be enough time in his busy schedule as commissioner to leave room for all of his bouts of crying that he has to schedule in. Like, he's got a plan on like his morning.
We're going to move on to the Super Bowl. Leave Dan Campbell alone. Damn it.
You brought him up. What do you want?
I wanted you to agree with me, and you didn't. Super Bowl 60. Seahawks Patriots. We're finally here, Scotty, and we didn't talk about this last week because we're talking about it right freaking now. Yeah. Call it the Butler rematch. This is an 11-year rematch. It has been exactly 11 years since the Seahawks famously threw an interception. Really, Russell Wilson threw an interception on the 1-yard line in the Super Bowl 11 years ago. While the players are new, there is still some unfinished business narrative here. And it's not just the players, the head coaches. I mean, the whole thing is very much different, but kind of an interesting, call it a rivalry, call it just a regular Super Bowl. Really, this boils down to the MVP versus the scheme. So you got Drake Maye, who is a front runner as an MVP candidate this year, but Mike McDonald is 6-0 against quarterbacks under the age of 24 since 2023. So can Drake Maye, the kid, solve the most complex defense in football? I think it's one of the most. I don't know if I would put it up there as the most, but it's certainly...
You wrote this. I don't know who you're arguing with.
I know. I'm arguing with myself here a little bit. And then you got Sam Darnold. I mean, you kind of talked about him at the top of the show here. Written off as a bust quarterback, has traversed the landscape of the NFL over the last few years, and just kind of been that journeyman guy that found a revitalization with the Vikings. And then I wrote him off again when he went to the Seahawks, and I was like, this is a Kevin O'Connell product. This is not Sam Darnold. He don't write back. Gino on the other hand,
he stepped in.
He not enough people are talking about this.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold didn't write back. Gino, he eventually got his pen and paper out, and he started writing. Yeah, I was going to say his quill. His little feathered quill and his ink. And he wroteth back. Yeah. But Sam Darnold didn't. So, I mean, can both teams lose in the Super Bowl? Is that a possibility? Because that's kind of what I'm rooting for.
Here's the thing. I think I'm going to be excited with either team winning. I come at it with like a more optimistic perspective because I think the storylines for both. I think I lost you. Did I lose you, Slaps? Hello.
Hello.
Oh, you're back. Yo.
I'm back.
Okay.
I think I had a little cutout. Okay. Who do you want to win? Not who do you think will win, but who do you want to win the Super Bowl?
I think I am on the side of the Seahawks. Okay. I think I want the Seahawks to win. And it's not because I like the Seahawks any more than the Patriots. I don't really care about either team.
It's Sam Darnold.
It's Sam Darnold. It's the storyline of Sam Darnold that would be fucking incredible. Not to mention, it would be incredible generally, but also I would really love to pull up some clips of Slapdog saying they're going to be the worst team in the NFL.
Wait a minute.
And then put it on a highlight reel of Sam Darnold Dyson fools up in the Super Bowl. No, I really do think that the Sam Darnold story is very cool, but it's also just very funny. I do think you can make a pretty good argument that the Patriots storyline is also pretty funny because of just the whole turnover and, they rebuild so quickly and they just dominate their way to the Super Bowl and win.
I don't think that's funny. It makes me angry.
Well, I think but it's funny because it makes people angry. It's sort of I'm a Chiefs fan, so I have a special place in my heart for the people who hate dynasties. Like I think I don't know. I sympathize more with Patriots fans than other fans probably do because they hate us for the same reason you hate them. And so I sort of am on their side a little bit with all the dynasty talk.
Yeah, I hate the Patriots, and they're one of those teams that, and it sucks because I genuinely like Mike Vrabel, I really do, and I think Drake Maye's a very good quarterback. I like Mike Vrabel. I just don't like the Patriots because I'm tired of it, and the fact that they're here again makes me disgusted. But then the Seahawks are in the NFC South, and I don't want them to win either. But so it's like it
seems like it should be a no-brainer for you though. Like as much as you want to hate the Patriots. Like if I put myself in your position, if there was anyone else, if the Broncos were in the playoff or in the Super Bowl, I would literally, I don't root for injuries or unfortunate death, but it'd be really, really close with the Broncos if they were in that position.
Well, I just hate I hate the Broncos for a multitude of reasons, but it starts for me with Sean Payton, not like the rivalry. Like if Sean Payton, we don't root for injuries. If that man lost his arm, I would be so happy. I hate that man.
You just think.
Right. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Like if Sean Payton's arm just got ripped off in a horrific accident. Yeah, I'd cheer.
Got caught on some barbed wire, just tore asunder.
Rip his arm off, man, and put that in the Hall of Fame. Suck it. I want the Seahawks to win too. I do, primarily for the storyline of Sam Darnold. Like that, I don't want them to win because that video will probably surface of me saying I think they're going to be shit this year, and then that would be a really bad look. But yeah, the storyline of Sam Darnold is just so freaking, it's like an enigma, and it's exciting, and like you can't help but root for the guy. So I want the Seahawks to win. And now who do you think will win, Scotty, between these two teams?
Yeah, this is the real conversation because I do think it's the Seahawks.
Okay.
But there's still a question mark, and that's the thing is that the big criticism of the Patriots, NFL football this whole year has just been kind of subpar. Yep. And there have only been two teams who have really risen above that, and I would argue these are the two teams. I think that these two teams have played the best football all season long. So in a lot of ways, I'm glad they're the ones sort of at the pinnacle here because they definitely earned it. But of course, the main criticism of the Patriots is the strength of schedule, which they have played 3 teams or 4 teams with a winning record up until now. In
Correct.
Those games, Drake Maye kind of has sucked. And so they've walked to the Super Bowl by stomping on all these teams that are kind of ass. And then in the games where they're actually challenged, we've seen Drake Maye struggle and falter a little bit. So the question is, how are they going to perform against the Seahawks team that is objectively the best team in the NFL this season? I mean, they have just been the best on both sides of the ball. They've been the most explosive. They've been the most disciplined. I say that Sam Darnold has had his games where he struggled a little bit, but overall, this is the best team that we've seen this year in the NFL. So the question is, how are they going to match up? And it does make it kind of fun as an outsider because really there are all the possibilities in this game. Like it could be a Seahawks running away with this, blowing them out, like not even close. I would not be surprised if the Seahawks won this game by 3 touchdowns, but I would also not be surprised if this was a grinded out, both the offenses struggle a little bit against these good defenses. I also wouldn't be surprised if Sam Darnold balls out like he has for a lot of the year and Drake Maye balls out like he has for a lot of the year. And we have an offensive showcase. All of the options
that one I
are
see is the most unlikely.
Probably.
That one I see is the most likely. And to be very transparent, it would not shock me if any of those 3 things they're in the realm of possibility. Like
Right.
I wouldn't rule any of them out. If I was to pick one as the biggest outlier for me, it would be both the quarterbacks just go freaking nuclear and crazy. I don't see that one as likely as the other two that you mentioned.
Yeah, but there is a level of excitement to it. It's maybe more so than other Super Bowls in the past. It just feels like there's a lot of unknown here, and largely around the Patriots, but also around we've seen Sam Darnold in the big moments struggle, and this year he's done a great job of not doing that.
I was going to say,
But like the possibility is always there that he just like poops his pants and throws 4 interceptions. Like it definitely could happen. We've seen it happen before. So, and you
but
know,
at what point do we stop saying that? Because for a large portion of this year, that hasn't. I mean, every quarterback has not played a perfect game. Like even the best quarterbacks in the league right now, they've had stinkers of games. So does that, in your mind, for Sam Darnold, does that mentality ever leave for you? Like at what point will we stop saying he's Sam Darnold of old? We know that's capable. We know he's capable of it, but any quarterback is capable of flopping. Mm-hmm. And so he hasn't really done it this year. He's had a couple stinkers, but all quarterbacks have this year. So like, does that ever leave you mentally? And I kind of think in conjunction with that, like Brock Purdy's a good quarterback, but he always carries this stigma of he's Mr. Irrelevant. And that stigma for a lot of people has never left him. Right. And so like at what point do you leave the stigma at the door and just say it is what it is now, and he's a good quarterback? Like
for Sam Darnold, I think there's even an argument to be made that he's not only, it's not like he's transformed himself. There's an argument to be made that he was always good, but we've just completely underestimated how the Jets and the Panthers will demoralize a player, because we know, and this is a problem with NFL fans generally. We kind of had an internal debate about something similar within the Leatherbrains team, but I feel like we underestimate the degree to which you need so much luck in order to succeed. The situation just has to come together and fit together like a puzzle piece. And yes, you have to control the things that you can control, but there is a lot that you cannot control, whether you're a head coach or a quarterback or whatever. Like things have to fall into place. And when you're playing for rebuilding teams like Sam Darnold did for most of his career, or as a backup in San Francisco where you don't really have an opportunity, like it's no wonder that we thought he sucked. Like, it's no wonder that he didn't get to showcase his top talent because he was never in an ideal situation. And then you go to the Vikings, you have Justin Jefferson, and you're like, oh shit, this guy can actually ball a little bit. And then you go to the Seahawks and you've got JSN, and you're like, oh shit, this guy can actually ball a little bit. And so you put a quarterback, all of these players are elite athletes. That's how you make it into the NFL. If you put them in the right situation, they're going to raise sort of the ceiling, raise the limit of what they're capable of. And it just so happens that Sam Darnold was a top pick in the NFL draft. He was a top prospect coming into his career. And yeah, when you put him in a good situation, he's a damn good quarterback and he plays well. I think that we've already reached the point now over the last 2 seasons. He has demonstrated that he definitely should be a starting quarterback, and you put him in the right situation, he does not have a limit. So that's great. There is always going to be the stigma about the degree to which he falls off when he falls off. And Brock Purdy, that's a good comparison because Brock Purdy's stigma is sort of unfair, I think, because over the course of his career, he's pretty much always been consistent. Like he's had a few games here and there that are not part of the standard. But the standard has always been pretty consistent. With Sam Darnold, there's not really a standard. It's like he's had 2 exceptional seasons and the rest of his career has just been ass. So in reality, he's probably somewhere in between. But because we've seen the lowest of the low for so long with Sam Darnold, the second he throws a couple picks, not only are we thinking it, but he's thinking it too in his mind. He's like, fuck. Like,
you think?
It's finally, I don't think there's any way he's not. And I've been impressed with him and his mental fortitude and the way that he's navigated this, because what he's done to climb back up the mountain to this point is it's an impressive physical accomplishment, but it's also a mental accomplishment that he's able to do that and turn his career around like that. But it's got to be living back there. And that's what makes me nervous about these big moments in the Super Bowl. And granted, he's been in the playoffs now for a while and he's played well. So maybe he's totally over it. But in the Super Bowl, you're like, if he makes one mistake, one bad throw, is that thing in the back of his mind going to take over and make it impossible for him to play to the top of his ability through the rest of the game? That does concern me still a little bit. Sure.
I also have the Seahawks winning this game. And really, for me, I look at it's really looking at the Patriots, and I don't think the Patriots are a complete team. I really don't, and that's not to say that they're not. I mean, they're in the Super Bowl, so like all Patriots fans are going to come at me with pitchforks. But what I said before they were, I think this was probably back in week 14 or 13, before even the playoff picture was finalized. I said the unfortunate reality for me is what we are seeing from the Patriots this season is not their. This is not where they're going to finish at for years to come, because we are watching a dynasty being built. Did I think they were going to go to the Super Bowl this year? No, I didn't. But I knew that they were on the precipice of something big, and that is where they're on the biggest stage now. The unfortunate reality is the Patriots are back. The Patriots are a high competing team, and I think we are going to see that for years to come. Now, I think we're going to see a little bit of a road, like some road bumps or some bumps in the road next season, because their schedule should be much more difficult given the fact that they're here in the Super Bowl. And that's what I'm really interested to see. But I have a lot of faith in Mike Vrabel. I have a lot of faith in Drake Maye and what they can do in the future to still be talking about the Patriots at the same level that we do with the Ravens and the Bengals and the Bills and the Chiefs, where it's like they're going to be in that conversation. That's where I see them. So Patriots fans I expect the Seahawks to win this game. But if I was a Patriots fan, like, you still have to be very excited for years to come, because I think your dynasty is being built right before your eyes again.
Yeah, I don't know if we've had this argument before. I wouldn't use the word dynasty yet. I mean, maybe after next week.
I'm early on the train. I
see that. Yeah, I think powerhouse, certainly. I mean, there's no reason to think that this is to your point. This is a team that is going to be difficult to contend with in the AFC for a long time. I mean, with what we've seen so far from Drake Maye, I will say, CJ Stroud in his second year kind of had a little bit of a falling off. Drake Maye obviously did not. But I was saying the same thing about CJ Stroud and the Texans, watching CJ Stroud and his, early in his career, like, oh, this is going to be a team that's good. And so you never know how things actually are going to play out, but all signs point to the fact that I agree with you about Vrabel. I think he's a phenomenal head coach. We've been saying this since he got fired from Tennessee. We're like, why are they getting rid of Vrabel?
Biggest mistake Tennessee ever made.
He's not the problem, obviously. So, we've been on the Vrabel train for a while. Drake Maye obviously is really good. The defense is phenomenal. They got to work to keep that together, but there's no reason to think that this team isn't going to be around for a long time. But again, this is a team that very well might compete with the Seahawks in this game. It could come down to the wire, or this is a team that could lose by 3 touchdowns. And I really just don't think there's any way to know definitively, because we haven't seen the Patriots play the teams of the highest caliber throughout the entire season. And
I think that's going to be to their detriment. That's why I think that's the other reason I have the Seahawks winning this game.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's good locker room, bulletin board material for the Patriots, because they're coming in and everyone's sort of. I think most people share our perspective that they're sort of the unproven, they're the underdogs, like they have to prove that they belong there, and maybe they do. But we just unfortunately don't know, and it's not their fault. You can only play who you put in front of them, and they've got the job done all season long. But It's just, as a spectator, you just wonder what it's going to look like when you're playing the team that's played the best, most consistent football all season long.
Yeah. Alan is not here today, but he did let us know he believes the Patriots will win the game. He's a Patriots fan, so I wanted to throw that in there.
It's more than anybody.
Yeah, he's a huge Patriots fan, so wanted to give him his flowers. Good luck, Alan, and you're cheering for the Patriots. And that's all the time we have, Scotty. If anybody has tuned in for the first time or a returning listener, genuinely appreciate your guys' support. Hit the subscribe button wherever you might be at: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. Go follow us on all the socials: Instagram, X, the Everything app, TikTok. We're everywhere. We're like the NFL. We're going worldwide, baby. So we appreciate you guys doing all that, and leave a 5-star review if you are so inclined. And Scotty, let's get the hell out of here, brother. And best of luck on Sunday. This is the last game, so enjoy it. Enjoy it. And enjoy football for what it is, because then the dry spell happens.
Then it's basketball season. And if you don't like basketball, I don't know how you survive.
Not a basketball guy. Yeah, I don't.
I don't know how you survive.
I'll tell you how I survive, Scotty. I get my Sundays back, and my wife's a little bit happier. So that's like how I kind of survive. But like right about early summer, I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, this is miserable. I need football. So enjoy football, ladies and gentlemen, on Sunday, because this is the last viewing you're gonna get, and enjoy Bad Bunny, I guess, too. Let's go, Scotty. I know. I wanted to piss you off before you left. All right, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. We
are
out.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out leatherbrains.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.